I think is Senator Waso.
I still have another bill.
Oh, you have another bill. Okay. Senator Huff, let's see, SB 1397. You can start while they're coming up, Senator Huff.
I believe the sergeants will be passing out a handout for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on SB 1397 for you today. And first, I'd like to clarify that I'm pleased to accept the 3 amendments described in the committee analysis. We all know California's roads are in disarray. Currently, there's $59 billion in deferred road maintenance as articulated by our governor last year. California ranks 47th in overall highway performance and 46th in urban congestion. Highway system repair and maintenance is underfunded by $5 billion annually, and local street repair is underfunded by $1.8 billion a year. Currently, $1 billion in truck weight fees that are designed to maintain roads have been diverted into the general fund annually since 2010. There's no debate that we have significant state highway maintenance and repair needs. The governor repeatedly has set those as between $50 and $60 billion in the state highway system over the next 10 years. SB 1397 would provide revenue estimated at $200 million annually at no cost to the state or taxpayer for appropriation by the legislature for state highway repairs. The bill does this by authorizing Caltrans through a competitive bid to enter into a public-private partnership to allow limited and controlled advertising on the changeable message signs located on California's freeways. Caltrans will have control of where advertisement could be placed, control of brightness, time of use, and emergency messaging would always have priority over any advertising message for traffic control purposes. The vendors selected for the project would be required to upgrade existing and future message signs to provide state-of-the-art, responsive, high-definition information capability for enhanced statewide emergency and traveler communications. Because most of the signs are located on interstate highways, federal approval will be required before the program can begin, and the state would be required to follow any conditions required by the Federal Highway Administration. The CMS project would begin as a pilot demonstration project at locations determined by Caltrans. An independent consultant will perform an independent evaluation of the pilot to determine whether the placement of advertising on the CMS creates any unsafe distraction to motorists or any other issues of concern. Witnesses speaking in favor of the bill include Mark Watts with Transportation California, the bill's sponsor, and Dave Ackerman and Paul Meyer, former executive with Clear Channel Outdoor and current president, Digital Sign Services, JCDecaux, North America.
All right, thank you. Witnesses in support.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. Mark Watts on behalf of Transportation California, a coalition of contractors, allied labor, and suppliers. And we've spent the last couple of years trying to find revenues to address the issues that the senator and the author has highlighted here. And we became very involved in 2014 when we discovered the changeable message sign information program and worked diligently through the budget process for the budget trailer bill that was enacted that year to require Caltrans to develop a pilot program. That's not been forthcoming, but we've so energized and interested in the revenue production and cost savings for the Department of Transportation that we worked with some of the fellows at the desk here to develop the bill that's in before you today. We think it has potential if the pilot program is developed as described for generating revenues for transportation programs, not just net revenues that would fund maintenance, but also potential cost savings for the new panels that would be updated and in place during the pilot program and prospectively as the system were to grow, all offsetting the need for the state to invest in those programs. So with that, I would bring my comments to a close and be ready for questions. Thank you very much. Urge your aye vote.
Next witness.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members, I think it's on. Chairman and members, Dave Ackerman representing the two, actually we're in two hats today. One, Associated General Contractors, to echo Mark Watts' comments about the need for additional revenue to maintain and do the repairs on our highway system. I don't think there's any debate about that, and we have a strong support. I also represent Intelligent Sign Network and JCDecaux North America on this project. As Mark said, we have worked for several years on the concept. In fact, when when the budget trailer bill was drafted several years ago that contained this approach. We worked with Caltrans to develop what was called a special project exemption with the federal government, where Caltrans did apply and drafted a what's called a SEP 15 application with the federal government. So the way the bill is drafted today, you see it reflects many of the concerns that Caltrans wanted reflected in it in the legislation. There's protections, again, for the types of messaging that's on the signs, where the signs could be located, control of the brightness of the signs, all sorts of conditions that at the time Caltrans said that they wanted to be included in the sign. The reason that we're moving forward with legislation is the federal government has indicated to us that California needs to say what it wants and move first. The federal government needs approval, as the author stated in his remarks. Approval from the federal government is required to proceed with these signs and with the pilot project. The U.S. Transportation Department and the Federal Highway Administration has indicated that Caltrans, in order to prepare that request, the legislature needs to provide at least initial authorization for a pilot so that Caltrans can then use this legislation as the basis for submitting the request to the federal government. And I said this closely resembles the previous request that they'd had before the Federal Highway Administration. The safeguards are built into the bill. And any questions you have, I have with me Paul Meyer, president of JCDecaux North America, to answer and address any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question on content on the signs and how you regulate that and what sort of content is permitted. As some of you may know, we recently had one of these transportation signs, and I forget whose it was, hijacked along the, I use that term loosely, but hijacked along the 91 freeway, and a political advertisement was displayed favoring one particular presidential candidate over another. So what content restrictions will exist with respect to the messaging on these signs, and how is that handled from a constitutional standpoint? Who wants to take that?
Defer to my expert witness with the chair's permission.
Senator, let me make an attempt to respond to that. First, the bill itself contains a number of specific content prohibitions. The signs cannot advertise firearms, they cannot advertise tobacco, they cannot advertise sexually explicit material, can't advertise illegal material. The bill also contemplates that Caltrans, as part of its agreement with the winning bidder, will establish standards consistent with all constitutional requirements for how copy generally should be reviewed and determined as to appropriateness. And I can tell you that there are literally hundreds of these kinds of public, private advertising concession contracts across the country, many of which do contain these kinds of standards for reviewing content.
But so for example, for those who do not favor abortion, if someone wanted to advertise abortion clinics on one of these signs, would you be able to restrict that advertising? Because that's not in your list of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, sexually explicit material, or any illegal activity. Or, for example, would you be able to restrict messaging with respect to stem cell activity?
Well,
or marijuana, or LGBT issues, or perhaps moving away from the social issues, some other subject that one particular segment of society perhaps favors and another particular segment in the region disfavors?
yeah, I'm certainly not a constitutional lawyer, Senator, but based on my experience, those kinds of subject matter restrictions would not typically be in government guidelines. And I think it would be very difficult for the government to promulgate guidelines that would restrict the type of advertising you're suggesting. But I will tell you that on a regular basis, outdoor advertising companies, when deciding on copy that they're willing to display on displays that they have responsibility for, will frequently refuse to accept copy simply because of it being highly controversial in nature.
But the difference, of course, I suspect, is that that's a private enterprise and not the state. And we're dealing with the state here, and these electronic displays are state property, aren't they?
Yes, but I would expect that the winner of the concession, when soliciting advertising, is going to also engage in its own screening of advertising as a private entity and may well reject advertising copy which that concessionaire views as in some way inappropriate.
Well, I
Not
don't.
because not because it was mandated by the guidelines, but rather as the private party soliciting and accepting advertising copy.
I'm certainly not an expert. I'm not sure that you can do that when you're using a state asset like these concessionaires would be used. For example, could the messaging be political? As we saw in Riverside County, certainly unauthorized, but political.
Well, the bill certainly does not prohibit political advertising.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, sir.
If I could just add something to that, this isn't the first time a public entity has entered into advertising. We have them on park benches, we have them on metro buses, we have them on subways, we have them on a lot of billboards on city municipal property. So, I'm not an attorney either, but this isn't groundbreaking. It's just saying that we control the right ways. We have existing signs that are not read very well and not used to their capability. And if you looked at the flyers that we handed out, it gives you an idea of how a visual representation of a car that a child is abducted in could help actually identify it rather than just some abstract amber and white, message board.
And if I could add to that, Senator, in the approximately 10 years that I was CEO of Clear Channel Outdoor, we had many of these public-private concession contracts, and I can remember a handful of times when we had disputes with advertisers over copy that we rejected, but I truly cannot remember a single lawsuit that we wound up having to defend. I'm not saying that the industry has not experienced those lawsuits. I'm simply saying, by and large, the industry has been able to work with the governmental entity that it's contracting with to establish guidelines that meet constitutional muster.
It must have come up before. I don't remember seeing, I've seen messaging on the sides of buses, and I don't remember seeing anything that I thought was particularly controversial, so somebody must have dealt with the issue. I just asked the question because I don't know, and I could see that coming up, becoming a real problem for some of us. Thank you for your responses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have other witnesses that want to additionally support this.
Mr. Chair, Member Cesar Diaz, on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council, also in support.
Okay, other witnesses supporting?
Chair and members, Bruce Mignani on behalf of the California Nevada Cement Association in support. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any additional supporters? If not, can we have the people that have concerns or opposed, please come forward? Thank you. And 2 speakers, 2 minutes. Go ahead. You have the floor, sir. You have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Ronald W. Beal speaking on behalf of the California Outdoor Advertising Association opposing this bill. While we fully agree that California has to expand its transportation funding, and we applaud the proponents and the senator for coming up with a creative idea, this particular bill contains too many safety, procurement, and First Amendment issues to be passed. Since you're discussing the First Amendment issues, I'll go there first. You may remember 10 or 15 years ago, after 9/11, American flags were placed on overpasses throughout the state of California. Some flags or posters were placed on the overpasses opposing that position. Went up to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit clearly ruled that if California opens its freeway for any form of communications, makes it a public forum, it must allow all forms of communications. Basically, the state cannot regulate content. This was the same underlying factor in the case of Metro Media versus San Diego, which is the leading Supreme Court case on billboard control. And that ordinance was overthrown on several cases. A plurality decision, no one's ever been able to figure it out. But they did make it clear that that ordinance said you could leave commercial messages up, but not political. And the Supreme Court said that was wrong. Political speech has to have the highest protection. So you can't advertise milk but not advertise a view on something like abortion or any of these other issues. This would be a state program. It'd be state-owned on a state freeway, state maintenance. That's different than a billboard privately owned on someone else's property, even if they pay a transfer or a fee to the city. So on First Amendment grounds, this would be a bill that would cause a lot of trauma down the way. This would also create a new tort liability for the state of California. These signs are on state right-of-way. As designed, they're owned by the state, maintained by the state, and the state regulates the speech on that. It's going to be directly over the freeway. You know the tort authority, the tort attorneys in California are going to jump on that, and the minute there's an accident close to one of these signs, they're going to claim the driver was distracted. Now, there's a specific exemption in the government code for official government signs, safety signs. But this would not extend to an advertising sign unless you really want to drastically amend this bill. That's a really big leap. This bill would also set up a single state procurement process with the person awarded the demonstration project being automatically awarded the permanent contract. While there are policies and guidelines provided to be adopted, as you probably know, under the administrative law regulations, they would have to be adopted as formal regulations. That is a difficult and litigious process. After the contract is let, this will be a very, very valuable contract. It only goes to one company. There's going to be a lot of litigation. It's going to cost Caltrans a lot more money than it's going to be bringing in for the foreseeable future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. Ryan Brooks, and I'm with Outfront Media. I'm the Senior Vice President. I can completely understand the plight of the state of California trying to find creative ways to generate revenue. We believe that this way is the wrong way for several reasons. One, it creates an unfair playing field. What the state does right now, they can create a law to bypass our current rules and regulations. And currently, we have to abide by local law, state law, federal law. What this does is create an unfair playing field. The state would be able to create a new system under their rules and put up a sign anytime they wanted to put up a sign. We don't believe that's fair. It would put out existing business. You know, our laborers and our union people are, you know, very upset by the fact of losing their jobs because of this particular bill. Second, I want to talk about free speech. This bill talks about an exemption on guns, but is there an exemption on gun shops? Is it exempts tobacco, but does it exempt tobacco shops? You know, if you're going to have an ad for insulin, you're going to have an ad for Viagra, Cialis. You're going to have Victoria's Secrets up there. You're going to have, you know, men's, you know, in their underwear selling Hanes up there. It's very tough to limit free speech. On the private industry, we do it all the time. We have that control. Our signs are on, you know, on private property. We see speech, we see copy all the time that we don't think is appropriate. When we receive a phone call from the local community, we have the opportunity to take it out. And so I'm asking you that you vote no on this, and I'm also like, look in your package. This is the case in Missouri where the KKK won against the state of Missouri to put up a logo sign on the side of the freeway. The state lost. If you want that in California, buyer beware. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Other speakers opposed, come forward. See anybody? Questions from the committee? Senator Wachowski, others?
So
Senator McGuire.
I don't want to focus on the content. I want to focus on the frequency because I'm concerned about the distractions. And what do you envision, Senator Huff, on this demonstration project? Because one of the concerns is that it's included in our report is too much constant advertising.
Well, Caltrans already has guidelines for advertising with a certain proximity to freeways. They're going to be setting the rules for this, and it's not going to be a flashing kind of thing like you see in Vegas. It'll be, and I don't remember the number of seconds that currently is what the standard is. That's part of what this pilot program is about, also to make sure that it is safe for us and that it's a temporary type of thing. So we're going to review not only that, but the other issues that were raised by the gentleman here in opposition.
The idea is that if you have no distractions, even though you can't control on private land that are within 600 feet of the highway, or evidently somewhere in Downey they have 25,000 square foot signs, but we haven't heard that yet. I guess I'm worried about now, I see the signs and they come up and they're only used, when something's, there's, the road is, whoever made this little thing, the road is closed down. Now, do you envision that this demonstration is going to be, from 6 o'clock in the morning till, 24 hours a day? There'll always be something on the message, or will the demonstration project include, we're not going to have advertising at, such and such a time, and when we think that these 17-year-olds with their provisional licenses are going to be hurt, right?
Yes. There will be dark downtimes. I can't tell you what that all is, but there will be times there's nothing up there.
Okay. Senator McGuire and Senator Leyva. Senator McGuire.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to talk quickly. So I completely understand the need for the bill, and I do appreciate the conversation I was able to have with Mr. Huff here just a bit ago. I think on the big picture at the same time, and I think we can all agree, wish we could fund transportation to where we really need to be able to go, innovative, to be able to advance this. So I support that, but I think it is a sad state of affairs, right, when we're looking, and it's necessary, but, trying to be able to pass that bill, and I know that the chairman has that ready to roll. So thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And,
Trying.
Yeah, absolutely trying, and I know Mr. Huff has been instrumental as well in regards to his lockbox bill as well. Just on a piece of information in regards to the public, there are very specific rules. There's two cities in the district that actually control their own billboards. It's an electronic billboard, very specific rules, and the rulemaking happened not at the council level, but it actually happened with staff as well as the manager of the billboards. So I think that while the bill outlines some of the items that may be prohibited, it may also make sense to be able to say rulemaking would be done with Caltrans, because I think that there are some templates that, quite frankly, work throughout the state where municipalities have adopted this same approach. Now, highway billboards, not like what we see with Caltrans, but right on the highway system. The one challenge that I have, and we were made aware of this earlier today, is that we have a county in the district that has banned all highway advertising, in fact, banned all outdoor advertising since the 30s, and adopted a formal ordinance in 1978. And there is real concern with that. And as I said to the author, not trying to be difficult on this, but I can't support the bill until we know that that county, and if there are any other counties in this state, I have not heard of any, would be protected if they have a pre-existing ordinance in play. And I think that's going to be important. Support the funding for transportation. We need it. We need an overall global fix. But that's the one area where I have concern today is the county has banned all advertising. And that would be my only reason for a no vote. And do apologize for that.
Okay. Senator Leyva.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Huff, did I hear the word pilot program? So this is a pilot program? Okay, and how long would it be in place?
3 years.
3 years. And what would we be evaluating during the 3 years?
Basically how it works. They're going to have limited, there's obviously, if you look at the handout that I gave you, it spells out how many are in place, how many are authorized. They're not going to change all of that, but they would have some. I originally had a hard and fast percentage, but we've made that a little more malleable to accommodate with Caltrans. But to figure that out, I'll let Mr. Meyer speak to that.
Okay.
If that's all right with the chair.
I think, Senator, if in the bill itself, it sets forth a number of factors that would have to be evaluated. Prime among them, safety, but also the cost effectiveness of the program, how the advertising has worked on the program. So the bill does establish some guidelines for that evaluation. Let me also just make a couple of other quick comments because.
I have another question. So are the comments on my first question?
No.
Okay. So the second question is in the committee comments, they say additionally revenues generated from this bill could be used for critically needed and currently underfunded highway projects, and road maintenance. So would the funds be used for sure for highways or could they be used?
Well, Madam Senator, that has to do with how the Senate and the legislature determines to appropriate it. It is my intent that it go into highway repair,
So where would they go otherwise?
wherever you decide, because it would be up to the legislature. It'd be another $200 million.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Depends on how we write the lockbox.
Yeah, right. We haven't done so.
Write a lockbox that protects the money.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, other questions from other senators? Okay, anybody else? There's a motion for the bill. Senator Huff?
There were some questions and some concerns raised, Mr. Chair. Could we have Mr. Meyer answer those?
If you like.
That would be appropriate.
If we can do it quickly, we want to move along here. We got a lot of bills here.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman. We've heard a lot of speculative concerns expressed about the bill. Let me try and put a couple of them to rest quickly. First Amendment issue. Notice that the opponents have not cited a single lawsuit involving attempts to prohibit governmental entities from enforcing their content guidelines. They did not cite one lawsuit. As to this issue about safety and liability,
Okay.
digital billboards have been up for 10 years. There are now 6,500 across this country. Again, there's never been a single lawsuit. More importantly,
Actually, there was one side, the state of Missouri, where the KKK actually tried to put a sign on, and actually the state.
All right, we heard that. We heard that.
that was a totally different,
Senator Huff,
issue. But
can we wrap it up, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence. Let me just restate for the members, we have a chronic transportation underfunding. This is a way to generate $200 million. Whether we can keep it in the lockbox or not depends on what the legislature does. That's certainly my intent. It's a pilot program, so we would explore a lot of the questions that have been raised here. As was said by Mr. Meyer just now, there's over 6,000 of these across the U.S. We do not have a history of preponderance or even very few. We've heard of one issues with that. Indeed, the city of Sacramento has digital message signs on city property, and they don't seem to be having issues with them. So I would ask, in the interest of trying to find creative ways that don't infringe on us in any manner, meaning we don't have to raise taxes, it's using the rights of way that we have, the resources that we have, I would ask for your aye vote.
Okay, further questions of the senator? If not, we'll call the roll, please. Go ahead and read the motion.
The motion is do pass as amended and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Senators Bell?
Aye.
Bell, aye. Cannella? Aye. Cannella, aye. Allen? Bates? Gaines? Galgiani? Leyva? Leyva, aye. McGuire?
No.
McGuire, no. Mendoza? Roth? Lurkowski?
We have 3 votes in favor, 1 against. Senator will leave the roll open for other members when they come to vote. Thank you.